Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Siheyuan. Me, Xu Damao, winner of Life Xu Mao, traveled to the courtyard houses of the 1960s and became the selfish and lecherous Xu Damao. As a social animal with a positive outlook on the three aspects, Xu Mao naturally will not follow the old path again. There is nothing wrong with a man's true nature. But he couldn't do the ruthless act of abandoning his wife. Xu Mao, who decided to give birth, decided to make a new plan. But there is also a major flaw in his life that lies ahead of him, and he doesn't want to become a destitute. Fortunately, he awakened the system. Ding! As you persist in cycling, your cycling skills have become more proficient, and your stamina can be increased by 1 point. Ding! Due to your insistence on whimpering, the driving time has slightly increased, and the level of spiritual pleasure has increased by 1 point. Ding! As you persist in reading medical books, you have a blessed heart and mastered the theory of traditional Chinese medicine recuperation. Ding! Because of you, Xu Mao discovered that he could learn and practice anything himself. What kidney deficiency, what extinction? It's not a difficult problem in front of him, he's now a safe winner in life. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001, me, Xu Damao, really speechless. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Secretary Yang, I really don't blame me this time. The one I'm going to hit is the son of Widow Qin. Who knew that Xu Damao suddenly appeared? No one expected this. If you don't believe it, you can ask the others in the kitchen. Many people were there just now. Shut up, you idiot. You knocked people unconscious, you still managed to deal with them, right? Dr. Chen, how is Xu Damao? Is there nothing wrong? Master E, I'm not sure about this either. It shouldn't have been a big deal to be hit by this rolling pin, but this person's brain is the most complex. If someone is knocked or bumped into, they will still be unconscious. Grandpa, how could this be so serious? He's an old man who used to fight with me without any problems. I think he's just pretending. Can't you just shut up? Secretary Yang, what do you think we should do about this? If he hasn't woken up yet, let's take him to the hospital first. Xu Mao was awakened by a burst of voices. When he opened his eyes, he saw a simple consultation room. The equipment, tables, and chairs here are all very retro, like the old furniture from his rural hometown. The cement on the wall is also a bit yellowish. It also bears slogans such as, prepare for war, prepare for famine, and serve the people, long live the great leap forward, and long live the people's commune. And he was lying on a makeshift hospital bed on the side, with a white curtain next to him. The sound just now came from the other side of the curtain. Where is this? Why am I here? Xu Mao rubbed his head and sat up. He still remembers reading Animal Courtyard all night to write a novel for a time drama, but he didn't expect to wake up here as soon as he woke up. I'm not feeling drowsy, am I? Hiss. Xu Mao rubbed his eyes, thinking he was still dreaming. But the next moment, a powerful memory appeared in his mind. He was instantly stunned as if he had been electrocuted. It wasn't until half an hour later that he realized it. Sleeping in bed, I have actually traveled through time and become Xu Damao. This must be a dream. Yes, it must be a dream. Xu Mao suddenly became agitated and jumped off the bed. He wanted to see who was doing the prank. Then, when he lifted the curtain, he was completely stunned. I saw several people standing in this clinic-like room. And surprisingly, he has seen all these people in TV dramas. No, and he knows everyone in his memory. YouXu, Zhonghai, Secretary Yang, and a doctor in his 40s. A few pairs of eyes, just look at me, I'll look at you. Appearing incredibly sudden. Xu Mao's brain buzzed and exploded instantly. This is true, Nima, this is really true. Oh my God, he has really traveled, he has actually traveled to the world of the animal courtyard. Oh my goodness, are you playing with me? Xu Damao, you're awake. When a few people saw him, they all stopped. His gaze also changed from shock to surprise. Yi Zhonghai breathed a sigh of relief. Only Youxu was momentarily stunned, and then he pouted with a disdainful expression. Grandpa, I'll just say he's okay. This kid's life is cheap, how could he have such an easy accident? Shut up. Yi Zhonghai glared at him and then said with concern, Xu Damao, are you okay? It's good when you wake up. The situation just now was really a bit scary. Are we still preparing to take you to the hospital? Secretary Yang turned his head to look at the doctor and asked, Dr. Chen, he's awake now. It should be no problem then. The middle-aged doctor nodded and said, he just fainted. Since I'm awake now, there shouldn't be any problem. Although Xu Mao blended memories, he still couldn't accept this fact. Now, he saw them surrounding him again, and for a moment, he didn't know what had happened. This brain is still a bit messy. Well. Who can tell me what exactly happened? How could I be here? As soon as he said this, Secretary Yang and the others were all taken aback. When they saw his bewildered expression, they all exchanged a glance. Yi Zhonghai asked cautiously, Xu Damao, don't you remember what happened? Dr. Chen immediately stepped forward and said, yes, can't you really remember? Think carefully. What happened before you fainted? Do you remember who smashed the bag on your head? The bag on your head. Hush. Xu Mao touched his forehead and took a deep breath. Nima, there's really a big bump on this head. Who the hell smashed this? Xu Mao naturally looked at Youxu, and memories in his mind also opened at this moment. He finally remembered. That's right, this bag was smashed by this bastard. He just returned from the countryside screening today. In order to enrich cultural and entertainment activities, the factory invited the leader of the film distribution station and even asked him to accompany him. As a result, he passed by the kitchen and suddenly encountered a mishap. I was hit on the forehead by a flying rolling pin and fainted on the spot. It's you, Youxu. That rolling pin was lost by your kid. When Xu Mao watched TV last night, he didn't have a good impression of the protagonist Youxu. It's unclear whether he was influenced by the original protagonist after becoming Xu Damao. Seeing him was a burst of anger. When Yi Zhonghai, Secretary Yang, and others saw his angry stare, they all breathed a sigh of relief, and their furrowed brows also relaxed. Just remember it, it means your brain is fine. If he can't remember anything. That's the big problem then. Youxu was originally a bit nervous, but seeing him bouncing around again made him feel confident and fearless. That's your own misfortune. I was originally going to beat Qin Widow's son, he mocked, who made you suddenly appear, can you blame me? And, you're also too weak. Even if you're hit by a rolling pin, you can faint. And it's causing so many of us to accompany you around aimlessly. Aren't you purely harming others? Xu Mao looked at his arrogant appearance and was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. The thought of calming things down instantly subsided. Looking at Secretary Yang beside me, I also had an idea in an instant. Angry and despairing, he said, am I unlucky? Am I harming others? I'm lying here, silly pillar. You're too arrogant, aren't you? Secretary Yang is right here, you should also open your eyes and talk nonsense like this. With a look of grievance on his face, he said, Secretary Yang, you're going to make the decision for me today. A destructive element like him should be kicked out of our team. 002 50 is not much, 100 is not much. You are listening at novel full.audio. As soon as Youxu saw Secretary Yang still beside him, he immediately understood that he had said the wrong thing. Xu Damao, your words are a bit excessive. Isn't it my fault that I accidentally hit you with a rolling pin? And I also sent you over as soon as possible. Shouldn't you thank me? Xu Mao was stunned and pointed to his forehead, saying in silence, I thank you. Do I thank you for knocking me unconscious? Look at the bag on my forehead, that's all you want to do. Yi Zhonghai looked at Secretary Yang, who frowned slightly next to him, and immediately pulled him up. He smiled and advised, Xu Damao, don't make a fuss. Today's incident is indeed the fault of the foolish pillar. However, he was also unintentional. Moreover, I don't think it's a big deal on your end. The swelling will subside in a few days. Alright, I'll act as an intermediary and ask silly Xu to compensate you for 5 yuan in medical expenses. That's all for it. Why? Xu Mao and youXu almost shouted at the same time. Xu Mao naturally feels insufficient. Since he has now become Xu Damao, he will naturally not be let go of such a good opportunity. And naturally, youXu is too many. 5 yuan, that's about 1 or 2 people's monthly rations. Seeing that neither of them cooperated, Yi Zhonghai frowned and felt a hint of anger. Silly Xu, Xu Damao, both of you should stop at a moderate level. Secretary Yang is still here. When are you going to cause trouble? Do you have to have everyone accompany you to tinker around here? youXu originally wanted to speak, but as soon as he received his gestured gaze, he could only curl his lips and forcefully endure it. Okay, Secretary Yang is all here. Then I'll pay 5 yuan for the medical expenses. Xu Damao saw the two of them singing double reed again, and his heart immediately burst into a cold laugh. He immediately covered his head and screamed in pain. Oh! My head hurts again, my head is so dizzy. How do I feel like the sky is spinning? I can't take it anymore, I really can't take it anymore. Secretary Yang, I feel like I need to go to the hospital for a check.Up, to a large hospital. As he spoke, his footsteps stumbled a few times, as if he had been drunk. He sat down on the ground and lay heavily there. Hey. Xu Damao, are you okay? Dr. Chen immediately rushed forward and shouted anxiously. However, Yi Zhonghai and youXu were completely dumbfounded. Even Secretary Yang didn't expect such a thing to happen. Although it felt a bit sudden and artificial, I didn't dare to be careless and quickly leaned in. Dr. Chen. I feel that my head is getting more and more painful, and I'm also getting more and more dizzy. I still can't see clearly. You, please take me to the hospital quickly. I think there's something wrong with my head. Xu Mao was helped up by Dr. Chen and leaned against him, looking weak. Not to mention, he just had his head smashed and his face turned a bit pale. This, combined with his acting skills, really looks like that. But he forgot that there was a professional doctor here. Dr. Chen came up to listen and feel the pulse one by one, and he understood that he was acting. Alright, Xu Damao, stop acting here. When did you learn acting again? You were lively just now, and now you're giving us another one. You think we're all fools. Get up quickly, don't waste our time. youXu immediately stepped forward and kicked with his foot. Yi Zhonghai also quickly warned, yes, Xu Damao, Secretary Yang is still here. Don't play such children's tricks. Don't make people laugh. Of course, Xu Mao knew he couldn't keep it from them like this. Not to mention anything else, Dr. Chen alone couldn't pass this hurdle. But what he wants is to deceive them. No, he just wants youXu to bleed a little. This is simple. At that moment, he stood up again with his head covered. Hiss. So dizzy, silly pillar, don't go too far. Secretary Yang, Grandpa, I know you don't believe me like this, but I'm really feeling a bit uncomfortable now. I don't want anything wrong with my head. My requirements are not high either, I just want you to be my witness, Secretary. Let me go to the hospital for a thorough examination. That's right, he doesn't want money, he just got injured and wants a comprehensive examination. Take a picture of peace of mind. In an instant, neither Yi Zhonghai nor Youxu knew how to answer. Secretary Yang's gaze turned to Dr. Chen and said, Dr. Chen, does his head really hurt or feel dizzy? You just checked your pulse, what's the situation now? Dr. Chen glanced at a few people and intended to say that he was completely fine, but as a doctor, he dared not speak too absolutely. With a bitter smile, he said, from the outside, Xu Damao doesn't have a big problem. The lump on my head will disappear after just a few days of external application. But after all, the brain is the most complex part of the human body, and if it harms some nerves or something, it's hard to tell from the outside. To avoid any unforeseen circumstances, it is also necessary to go to the hospital for a check.Up. Upon hearing these words, Xu Mao was immediately delighted and almost hugged Dr. Chen and gave him a kiss. Then he nodded and said, yes, that's what I mean. Secretary Yang, I've had such a big bump on my head, and I've been unconscious for so long. I'm still feeling dizzy now. I also want to see if there are any issues. It's not too much to go to the hospital for a full body examination. Secretary Yang nodded and said, this is quite appropriate. Xu Damao, since you are not at ease, then go to the hospital and have a good check.Up. I'll also give you a break these days, so you can go home and rest well. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Secretary. Xu Mao's heart was filled with joy. Sure enough, this crying and fussy child had candy to eat. He immediately turned to Dr. Chen and said, Dr. Chen, how much does it cost for this full body examination? Dr. Chen was taken aback and said, a full body examination. Xu Mao nodded and said, yes, although I was hit in the head, who knows if it will hurt other places. This examination, of course, is a full body examination. I heard that Concordia has also introduced some foreign high-tech equipment, and I want to go there and take a look. This way, I can rest assured. Dr. Chen's mouth showed a strange expression and he couldn't help but laugh and cry, if you go there, then the cost will be expensive. I don't know the exact amount, after all, I haven't been there either. Xu Mao added a hint of playfulness to his lips and said, Dr. Chen, how much does that cost? Can you give me a rough idea? Dr. Chen glanced at Secretary Yang and Youxu before hesitating and said, well, this span is a bit large. It should take several dozen. 50 yuan is not too much, and 100 yuan is not too little. Anyway, it depends on the situation. Okay, he's just a barefoot doctor. He doesn't know much about these things. He usually takes care of minor illnesses and handles emergency situations at the steel rolling mill. If he were to do something else, it wouldn't be possible. As Youxu listened to the conversation between the two, he also had an instant reaction. Xu Damao, fart your mother, don't go too far. You just got a slap on the forehead. What else are you going to Peking Union Medical College Hospital? You got a slap on the forehead, right? Dr. Chen, don't listen to him talk nonsense either. He's completely trying to extort me. 003, if you don't accompany me, then I'll go public. New book. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xu Mao pointed to his head and chuckled playfully, I just had my head smashed by you. Now my brain is malfunctioning. Can I also go to a good hospital for a check.Up? Who let you smash me? You wouldn't even think of the inspection fee, would you? Rainwater looked at his proud expression and immediately clenched his fists. You. If it weren't for Yang Shuji here, he would have started punching and kicking, teaching the guy in front of him how to be a good person. Xu Mao reached out directly to him and said, don't worry about it. With Secretary Yang present today, I won't hold you responsible for anything else. If I report to the police, you will be charged with intentional injury. Now I'm just asking you to pay for the inspection fee. If you don't want to, then I have no choice, we'll just go public. If it's public, it's like calling the police. Or call the security office to handle it. Yi Zhonghai immediately turned his gaze to Secretary Yang and said, Secretary Yang, what do you think? Secretary Yang looked at Xu Damao and then at silly Zhu, saying, this is your personal matter. If you two can solve it privately, let's do it privately. Youxu also knows that he won't help himself anymore. Gritting his teeth, he said, how much do you want? Xu Mao chuckled inwardly and raised his finger, saying, just now Dr. Chen also said that the cost of a brain examination is very expensive. You can give me 100 yuan first, refund more, and make up less. Youxu suddenly widened his eyes and exclaimed, how much? 100. Yi Zhonghai also frowned and said, Xu Damao, you need too much of it. I just have a lump on my head. It's only a matter of a few cents to go home and wipe some medicine. You're asking for 100 yuan now, isn't that a bit excessive? He originally intended to say, are you robbing? But as soon as he thought Yang Shuji was here, he changed the word slightly. Xu Mao immediately pursed his lips and said displeasedly, Grandpa, what are you talking about? What does it mean to make a little fuss? Am I fooling around? These examination fees are not what I said, they are a guide price given by Dr. Chen. How could this get into your mouth? It's just me playing around. Do you really think I'm extorting your money? I didn't let you waste your time, so you came with me. If that's the case, then I don't want any money either. You two can come with me now and go to the hospital together. At that time, you will give me as much money as I do for any examination. This way, there won't be any money I cheated on you. Xu Damao, you. Youxu is almost going crazy. He certainly wouldn't go to the hospital with him. If he had gone to the hospital, this guy wouldn't have gone through his entire body. Maybe I'll just stay there for a few days. By then, it won't be a matter of tens or even hundreds of yuan, but hundreds or even thousands of yuan. However, even so, this 100 yuan is still a bit too much. 100 yuan, this is 100 yuan. Even with his salary, it would take him 3 months to make ends meet. How dare this bastard? It's like a lion opening its mouth. But just as he was about to curse, he saw Yi Zhonghai give him a glance, indicating that Secretary Yang was still here, asking him not to lose his composure. After trying to calm down for a while, Yi Zhonghai spoke up again, Xu Damao, I think this is still a bit too much. How about this? Both of you take a step back, you take a little less, and silly pillar will give you a little first. If you're injured now, go to the hospital for a check.Up first. When the time comes, there will be more refunds and less compensation. You can get the ticket and report it to you. Xu Damao immediately shook his head and said, no, this is not possible. Grandpa, how much will you give me first? 1 or 2 yuan, or 5 or 10 yuan? If there are any expenses in the future, what if silly Zhu doesn't admit it? I can't keep arguing with him, can I? Yi Zhonghai didn't expect him to be so difficult to deal with, and for a moment, he also lost his language. You. After speaking, he could only turn his gaze to Secretary Yang on the side, waiting for him to make a decision. The latter also felt a bit helpless and sighed, Xu Damao, I think Master Yi's idea is very good. Then you should take less. After all, 100 yuan is indeed quite a lot. It seems like it will take 3 months to make up for the salary of the silly pillar. How much do you want for a fixed price? Xu Mao and others immediately agreed upon this statement and said, okay, since Secretary Yang has spoken up, I'll take a step back and do a few tests at most. Alright, 80 yuan, it can't be any less. 80. Yi Zhonghai's face turned black. Even Dr. Chen twitched at the corner of his mouth. Nima, this is really dark. Is there any shortage here? Okay, it seems like there's really a lot less. But it doesn't seem much different from 100. After taking a deep breath, Yi Zhonghai said, Xu Damao, is Secretary Yang's face worth 20 yuan? 50, just 50 yuan. This is already quite a lot, it's just 2 months' salary for ordinary people. Xu Mao chuckled and said, Grandpa, this is someone else's 2-month salary, not your 2-month salary. You're over 90 or even 100 yuan a month, right? What does this money mean to you? Also, don't argue with Secretary Yang. If Secretary Yang speaks up, I can waive any of this inspection fee. Yi Zhonghai glanced at Secretary Yang again, gritted his teeth, nodded, and said, okay, that's 80 yuan. Xu Damao, I gave you this money. If there are any expenses in the future, you can't come to us again. Xu Mao suddenly grinned and said, of course. As long as you help me pay for this examination fee, even if I find something in my head again in the future, I won't go looking for you again. Okay, then make a deal. Yi Zhonghai knew that YouXu had no money, so he took out 8 great unity cards from his pocket and handed them directly to him. YouXu's eyes were almost on fire, and his gaze at Xu Mao was as if it were cannibalistic. Xu Mao, on the other hand, didn't care about these things. Looking at the 8 great unity in front of him, he happily put it away. Secretary Yang glanced at them and said, all right, your matter has been resolved. That's all for now. You should go back to your job and everything you should go back to. Okay, Secretary Yang, then I'll go check first. I'm also taking a leave of absence from you these 2 days, so I'll leave first. Xu Mao immediately nodded and left here without looking back after receiving a reply. Judging from his agile appearance, there are no other symptoms of headache or dizziness. This bastard. YouXu stared at his back, his teeth almost bleeding from biting. Although unwilling in my heart, I have no choice but to admit defeat. Who let me knock him unconscious? No, I can only endure it temporarily. 004, Xu Damao seems to have changed his personality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Secretary Yang, then take your time and we'll go work too. Yi Zhonghai gave him another glance and directly escorted Secretary Yang to the door. After watching him leave, I turned around and scolded him. Why are you just so angry? Secretary Yang is still here, why are you still like you're in a courtyard? YouXu angrily said, I can't stand it. Don't you take a look at that kid's face just now. He's clearly extorting. Yi Zhonghai was also a bit angry and said, you think I don't know, but what's the solution? Who made you knock him unconscious? Coincidentally, Secretary Yang is also here. It's all like this, who are you not accompanying? Do you still want to go to the security office? YouXu said reluctantly, then let's just forget about it. I didn't mean to do it this time. He is pure and unlucky for himself. When was YouXu bullied by Xu Damao like this? He extorted 80 yuan today, which is a great shame. If he doesn't vent his anger, he probably won't be able to sleep for a few days. Yi Zhonghai said, what do you want to do? Go back and teach him a lesson. I'll tell you, if he dares to do this now, he's just being fearless. If you dare to touch him again, he might lie down again. Maybe I'll knock on you again. I don't know where this kid learned this move, even I have no way of dealing with him. As he spoke, he stopped and turned around, saying, by the way, you have to pay back that 80 yuan. You should still have some savings, so I'll give you a big mom when I go back. Otherwise, I'll deduct it from your monthly salary. YouXu didn't feel sorry for the money, he just couldn't swallow the bad breath and immediately followed suit. Then I'll suffer this kind of dumbfounded loss and give him 80 yuan for nothing. Yi Zhonghai turned around and stared at him before saying, what else would that be? A gentleman seeks revenge, and it's not too late for 10 years. Don't you understand the principle? You're just losing your head with anger now. I used to think he was a waste and didn't take him seriously, but now it's okay, let's face a big loss. You need to learn a lesson, not rush with me here. Youxu suddenly calmed down a lot after being scolded by him. That's right, what Zhonghai said is right. Previously, Xu Damao was bullied by him, but today when he extorts him, he feels a bit irrational. Also, Zhonghai said again, don't you think today's Xu Damao is a bit strange? Youxu was taken aback and asked in confusion, strange? Zhonghai frowned and said, yes, it's very strange. Whether it's in words, deeds, eloquence, or this logical thinking, it's very different from himself. It's like a different person. Think about how he extorted you just now. Isn't it different? Youxu thought for a moment, but also became suspicious. That's right, if we were to switch to the usual situation, we would have encountered today's situation, and he would have pinched it in his hand. Xu Damao is very afraid of death, even if he is not afraid to beat him up. As long as Zhonghai speaks, he has nothing to say but obediently obey. But just now, he didn't give any face and completely lost his previous attitude. It's a bit different indeed. If we had extorted so much money from us before, we would have started to get angry long ago. Youxu touched his chin and said in confusion, this is a bit strange. How could he have such a change? Did you get knocked open by my stick? Zhonghai patted his shoulder and said, if you can't figure it out, don't think about it. Isn't it a rain-blind date today? You should go back early and see what's going on. Don't dwell on these things anymore. Youxu immediately nodded. On the other hand, Xu Mao gradually calmed down after leaving the clinic. He extorted 80 yuan from Youxu, which is indeed something worth celebrating. This amount of money is equivalent to 3 months' salary for an ordinary person. Even if his family has money, it is still a considerable income. However, now that he is dressed as Xu Damao, he needs to quickly integrate into this character. In fact, crossing into the courtyard and becoming Xu Damao is undoubtedly a good start. This Xu Damao is a template for a small villain in love and hate novels. People are not very handsome, but they have money at home, stable jobs, and even a pretty wife. The most important thing is that this wife has money in her family. Moreover, they are the only child in the family. No matter where it is placed, as long as this person does not die, he will undoubtedly have a very good life. But in this courtyard, Xu Damao is constantly tinkering with things. Finally, he tossed himself around like a dog and didn't catch anything. Of course, Xu Damao's biggest flaw is his lustful nature. In this drama, as long as she is a more beautiful woman, he wants to have her. However, for Xu Mao, being lascivious to men is not a problem. Which family of men are not lascivious? If it's really not lascivious, then it's over. Now that he has become Xu Damao, many problems can naturally be avoided, and the only thing that cannot be avoided is probably the stereotype he has left over the past 20 years. And the popularity in the courtyard. The most important person is Youxu, and I don't know if there is any protagonist's luck in this world. Anyway, he is his biggest enemy. Moreover, this guy always seeks revenge and extorted him today. With this guy's urinary nature, he will definitely seek revenge. He must always be on guard against him. By the way, his predecessor Xu Damao also had the biggest life problem, which was that this guy seemed to have left no seed in the entire drama for decades. It seems like he is out of business. Yes, it's just a dead end. Thinking of this, Xu Mao immediately became calm. Life in this world may not always be about passing on the family line, but the concepts of not wanting to have children and not being able to have children are still too. He doesn't want to travel back to this era and not even have a seed. How about? Take this opportunity and go to the hospital for a good check.Up. Xu Mao touched the still bulging forehead and murmured. But he temporarily suppressed this idea. After searching his memory, he really went to the hospital with Lu Xiaoa for a check.Up before. However, due to limited conditions, neither of them detected any issues. Xu Mao instantly understood Xu Damao's behavior in the TV drama, and since he had checked it, he firmly believed that he had no problem. Even though so many people in the whole hospital ridiculed him with this, he always believed that he would have children. Otherwise, if they don't have children, why would Liu Xiao feel that it's all her own problem? You should know that Liu Xiao is a wealthy young lady and also has a good temper. Even if she doesn't go to the hospital herself, her parents will still urge her to go, and she will tolerate it. Oh, let's go home first. 005, Cycling, Increase Stamina by 1. New book. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xu Mao didn't want to think too much. He had just crossed this world and wanted to stay calm and think about what to do next. Is it like lying flat completely like this? What should we do instead? Lie flat, he has this capital. His father.In.Law is a red capitalist, as long as he doesn't die, as the only son.In.Law of the Liu family, all the property in his family will definitely belong to him in the future. Besides, he still has a good job at the moment. He is the only projectionist at the steel rolling mill. This projectionist has a decent salary, with a basic salary of 32 yuan per month, a subsidy of 50 cents for each movie, and some other benefits for going to the countryside to film. For example, the public can offer some chicken, fish, or local specialties. As long as he doesn't slack off, he will definitely earn more than youXu. Riding a bicycle, the closer he got to the courtyard, the more anxious his heart became. There's no way, he was still a social animal from the 21st century, and now he's in the 1960s. Not only did she take on the role in the TV drama, but she also had a wife. Life will be different from now on. Ding. As you persist in cycling, your cycling skills become more proficient and your stamina slightly increases. Ding. As you persist in cycling, your cycling skills become more proficient and your stamina slightly increases. Ding. As you persist in cycling, your cycling skills become more proficient and your stamina slightly increases. Just as Xu Mao was still a little lost in thought, a voice suddenly rang out in his mind. I'll go, what is this? Xu Mao suddenly stopped the car, his face full of fear. At this moment, the passers-by next to him were startled and looked at him with a puzzled expression. And what does Xu Mao seem to remember? The expression on his face gradually changed from fear to ecstasy. System, this is specifically a system. I have also awakened the system. This system is indeed the standard configuration for the Pathfinder. He used to have a very confused mind, always in a state of confusion after crossing time, and never thought about this. Now everyone has suddenly reacted. I am also someone with a system. Xu Mao stood there with an excited roar, causing everyone to look at him and scold him for being crazy. In order to test his guess, Xu Mao kicked his left foot and crazily stepped on it again. Sure enough, in no time, the sound of the system rang out in his mind again. Ding. As you persist in cycling, your cycling skills become more proficient and your stamina slightly increases. Ding. As you persist in cycling, your cycling skills become more proficient and your stamina slightly increases. Listening to the pleasant sound in his mind, Xu Damao became even more enthusiastic. It was originally a 10-minute journey, but he arrived in 5 minutes. In order to experience this feeling, he lingered in the alley for 2 more laps until he returned to the courtyard. The sound of the system in his mind finally had a slight change. Ding. Because you persist in cycling, your cycling skills become more proficient and your stamina increases by 1 point. Physical strength increased by 1 point. Xu Mao didn't know what this concept was, but it was obvious that he felt a warm current pouring into his body. He was a bit wheezing just now. I won't be panting at all. Not only does the heart rate slow down, but even the feet are not sore anymore. How amazing! Xu Mao felt the changes inside his body and was also ecstatic in his heart. Xu Damao's body is still a bit weak. Otherwise, with his height and weight, he wouldn't have been bullied like this by Youxu, who is shorter than him. He felt like he just needed to keep practicing like this. Not only will physical strength increase, but the body will also gradually improve. Big brother, you're back so early. Hey, what's wrong with your head? Why is it so swollen? Yan Jichen just walked out with a bag of garbage and greeted him when he saw his cart coming in. Oh, no, it's okay, I just accidentally bumped into it. Xu Mao gave a faint smile, even if it was a response. Not careful. This is hitting the electrical pole. Entering the courtyard, the scene before Xu Mao was both familiar and unfamiliar. Familiarity was a fusion of his predecessor's memories. Strange. This is naturally his first time here. Make him feel a sense of trance and unreality. This feeling is very strange. Fortunately, there aren't many people in the courtyard. It is obvious that his social connections are not very good, and no one greeted him along the way. When he arrived at the backyard, he saw Liu Xiao sitting at the door of the deaf old lady. Chatting with her right away. Damao, you're back. Oh, what's wrong with your head? Why did you hit such a big bump? Liu Xiao was knocking on melon seeds when she saw the wound on his forehead and hurriedly walked over. It's really true, this was knocked over there. The deaf old lady also stood up with a cane. Xu Mao realized that when he saw Liu Xiao, he didn't know if it was due to his predecessor, so he wasn't as nervous or resistant. It's not that unfamiliar either. This was smashed by this guy, silly pillar, in the cafeteria. I have already seen the doctor, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Xu Mao didn't hide it from him, just parked his bike and handed her the bag in his hand. What? Stupid pillar smashed it. Liu Xiao exclaimed in surprise. Looking at his forehead, his face was filled with heartache. How could this be? How could this child, silly Xu, smash you? Xu Damao, you can't talk nonsense. The deaf old lady does not believe. Xu Mao looked at the old lady in front of him and felt a hint of displeasure in his heart. She and Yi Zhonghai were undoubtedly the greatest assistants to Youxu. It is precisely because of their existence that Youxu can be so reckless. Moreover, it was the deaf old lady who matched his wife with Youxu. The predecessor Xu Damao has been unable to understand this product. Xu Mao has watched TV dramas and naturally knows what kind of person she is. Madam, what you mean is that I have wronged him, he said coldly, the injury to my forehead is so obvious, would I still lie to you? If you don't believe it, you can ask him yourself. As he spoke, he walked into the room with a displeased expression on his face. Liu Xiao saw that he was injured, so she naturally followed in without hesitation. Damao, how could you have suffered such a serious injury? Did you start fighting with him again? Don't move, let me take a look. Liu Xiaoyi grabbed his arm and asked him to sit down with concern. Looking at his bulge, she almost shed tears. Xu Mao naturally felt her strong concern. In my heart, I cursed at Xu Damao, this bastard. This daughter.In.Law is so good. Later on, he would actually divorce Qin Jingru because of this idiot. I really don't know how this brain grows. I'm fine, I've seen it in the hospital. The doctor said that the swelling will disappear in 2 days. Xu Mao looked in the mirror. His bulge is not very big, but because Dr. Chen applied him some anti-inflammatory and swelling-reducing medicinal wine. It looks a bit conspicuous. 006, Xu Mao. This predecessor is really not something. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. How could you make such a fierce move this day? No, we can't just let it go. I'll go find him. Why could he beat you up like this? I don't believe there's no place to reason in this world. Liu Xiao stood up angrily, turned around, and was about to walk outside. Wait, Moth. Don't be impulsive. Actually, I have already resolved this matter. Xu Mao let out a bitter smile. His wife is really a bit tiger. When I used to watch TV, I only thought she was a bit spicy, but now it seems like she's still a bit cute. You solved it. Lu Xiao was skeptical and skeptical. Yes, it's resolved. Xu Mao didn't hide anything, so he simply recounted the previous incident. Lu Xiao's eyes lit up as she listened. When she heard that Yi Zhonghai was really replacing YouXu with 80 yuan, she felt a little excited. What? You really knocked him out? Xu Mao nodded and said, this is still fake. Look, all the money is here. As he spoke, he had already taken out the 80 yuan. Really, he. That's great. Damao, you're really amazing this time. This silly pillar is so annoying. He used to trouble you a lot, so we should give him a lesson. See if he dares to take action against you in the future. Lu Xiao looked extremely happy when she saw the money. That's right, from today on, I'm not the same Xu Damao as before. In the future, in this courtyard, only I will bully him, and there will be no room for him to bully me. This is just the beginning, so just keep an eye on it. Xu Mao felt the expression of her true feelings, and his heart was also slightly touched. How good this daughter.in.law is. Although it looks a bit tiger, it's really good for oneself. I don't know why this predecessor was blind. Surprisingly, he would divorce her. Even if you're looking for a woman, this daughter.in.law can't let go. Doesn't he know that flags can fly outside, but the red flag at home must not fall? By the way, all this money belongs to that foolish pillar. Just give it all to you. Xu Mao handed over the money. Are you giving me the money? Lu Xiao was taken aback for a moment, then looked at him strangely. Yeah, what's wrong? Xu Mao's strange way. Lu Xiaoyi glanced at him carefully before hesitating and saying, Damao, are you sure you want to give me the money? I really don't regret it. You're not really hitting your head, are you? You used to value money more than your life, why did you suddenly have this idea today? Xu Mao exclaimed in shock, I used to value money more than life. As he spoke, he was taken aback for a moment, and then he realized that his predecessor seemed to have never given her any money, not a single penny. Since she got married, all the expenses she needed have come from her mother's family. In the words of your predecessor, your family is so wealthy, and your parents only have you as an only child, so they should give you a lot of money. There's no need for him. Now think about it, this guy is really a jerk. Aren't we husband and wife? Of course, I have to give you my money. Moth, I used to be confused. But starting from today, I will pay you every month's salary from now on. You will be the head of the family in the future. Xu Maoshan smiled faintly, he really wanted to give this predecessor a slap. Now, since he has occupied this body, it is natural for him to bear the fault of his predecessor. Of course, there was also a hint of unease in her heart, afraid that she would see something. Fortunately, although Lu Xiao looked at him strangely, she did not notice any abnormality. On the contrary, gradually, a touch of emotion appeared in my eyes. Immediately, Zhang Yan smiled and pushed the money back to him, saying, you don't need this money anymore. You just have this heart. I have money. Xu Mao breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, but insisted, no, all your money comes from your mother's house. You're married to me now. As a big man, I can't rely on you to support me, can I? It's not good to be heard by others. Okay, you keep this money. In the future, I will pay you a salary of 20 per month. Lu Xiao couldn't resist him and had to keep the money. Immediately, he kissed his face and said happily, Damao, you have really changed a lot. Okay, then I'll keep this money. I won't ask my family for money anymore. Speaking, he stood up and walked towards the door. I'll cook for you now. Aren't you injured? Tonight we'll have chicken and make up for it. Xu Mao felt sincere happiness from her and smiled knowingly. How many despicable things did this predecessor do before? I owe her a lot. Fortunately, he will come by himself, so let him make up for it in the future. However, he thought to himself that just as he was about to lie in bed for a while, he heard Liu Xiao's shouts outside. He lifted the door curtain and saw her pointing anxiously at the chicken coop. Damao, why is there one less chicken at home? Did you take it to see someone off? One chicken is missing. As soon as Xu Mao went over and saw it, it was true that there was only one old hen huddled in the chicken cage where 2 chickens were originally kept. The other one has long disappeared from sight. No, I haven't even come back today. How could it be possible to give away chickens? Liu Xiao said strangely, that's strange. Where did this chicken go? When I fed it this morning, it was still there. Xu Mao looked around and said, then let's search in the courtyard. Maybe it went into that corner. Liu Xiao nodded and said, yes, I'll go find it right away. As she spoke, she circled around the backyard and headed towards the middle courtyard. Xu Mao originally wanted to go back to the house, but on second thought, he still followed along. Then I'll accompany you to find it. As he spoke, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and froze there. The kitchen in the cafeteria was smashed and chickens were thrown at home. I'll go, isn't this the beginning of the quadrangle plot? In the TV series, the rolling pin of the silly pillar hit her body, and in this moment, it hit her head directly. No wonder he had always felt a bit familiar with this scene before. I don't know what's wrong. Emotions have undergone changes here. Wait, Moth, I know where our chicken has gone. Xu Mao reacted and quickly stopped her. Do you know where it is? Liu Xiao stopped her steps and turned around. Xu Mao nodded and his gaze had already turned to Youxu's house. Although his chicken was still stolen by Jia Bongang and the story continued to develop like a plot, after all, there were some changes between him and Youxu. He is not sure if Youxu has returned now. I'm not sure if he also brought half a chicken back from the cafeteria. If he didn't bring it, even if he called the police, it wouldn't be useful. At most, he would just arrest Jia Bongang, this little bastard. His goal has always been Youxu. In this courtyard, as long as he's dealt with, he's basically no longer threatened. 007, the plot has changed, it seems like it hasn't changed again. You are listening at novel.Audio. Xu Damao and Liu Xiao, what are you two sneaking around here for? Just as Xu Mao was thinking about how to speak, a sound system burst out. Lu Haizhong walked in from outside with his hands on his back. Second Grandpa, what are you saying that doesn't sound good? What does it mean to be sneaky? We're just standing in the yard, aren't we? Upon hearing these words, Xu Mao immediately became unhappy. It's also a sin created by his predecessor. The people in this courtyard really don't treat him well. Not to mention, it's in the same bangs as living in the backyard. Yeah, Second Grandpa, we lost our chicken. We're looking for chickens. Liu Xiao also had a displeased expression on her face. Your chicken is lost. When did you find everything? As soon as Lu Haizhong heard that they were looking for something, he immediately became excited. Immediately strode over. I haven't found it yet. I was still feeding it this morning. Just now when I wanted to kill a chicken, I was missing one. Second Grandpa, have you seen it? Someone came to our backyard today. Liu Xiao asked. Losing a chicken doesn't really hurt her. If she goes to the market to buy it, it's only about 1 yuan. But the problem is that this is an old hen used to lay eggs. There's only one left now, so if we eat it, we'll have nothing left. I just came back from outside, why don't you guys search again? When Lu Haizhong saw her asking him, he immediately lost interest. Xu Mao's nose twitched at this moment, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face, but he pretended to be surprised. Moth, smell it quickly. What kind of smell is this? Is this the aroma of stewed chicken? He kept staring at Hiyuju's house, which was facing north and south, and was the main room in the middle courtyard. The back wall was right in the backyard, and what food was served in the house? You can smell it in the backyard. It's the taste of chicken soup. Lu Xiao's nose twitched and she immediately confirmed. Isn't this coming from the silly pillar's house? Let's go over and take a look. Lu Haizhong also saw it. Following the fragrance, he immediately locked onto Hiyuju's room. Xu Mao was waiting for this moment, and seeing him take the initiative naturally made him happy to see it come to fruition. The three of them walked angrily towards Hiyuju's house. He lifted the curtain of his door. I saw Hiyuju sitting inside, legs crossed, very relaxed. On the stove not far from him, a clay pot was steaming hot, and the aroma of the chicken soup came from it. Okay, silly pillar, it turns out you stole this chicken from our house. Lu Xiaoyi took a quick step forward and lifted the lid of the clay pot, which was filled with half a rotten chicken stewed inside. It's also very tempting. Lu Haizhong also glanced at him, waiting for Hiyuju to react. Silly Zhu, where do you get this chicken from? He asked with a question at this moment. Hiyuju also realized. Watching the three people rushing into the room, a hint of displeasure instantly appeared on their faces. Especially when I saw Xu Mao, a hint of anger appeared. Second grandpa, what are you doing? Where did my chicken come from? And you guys, what do you want to do so aggressively? Immediately put on the leadership airs in the bangs. With a cold snort, he said, what do we want to do? I was just about to ask you. Xu Damao's chicken is lost. Where did you get this chicken from? Hiyuju also reacted and said, oh, I understand. If Xu Damao's chicken is lost, suspect me of stealing his chicken. So, the three of them rushed in so aggressively. As he spoke, his face suddenly turned cold and he shouted coldly, Second Master, what do you mean by this? Do you think I would steal their chicken? Lu Haizhong was startled by his angry and round eyes, and his aura immediately descended. Silly Zhu, I didn't say it must be you who stole their chicken, he said with a smirk, we're also here to inquire. Hiyuju sneered and said, inquiry. If you see our house stewing chicken, come and ask. If I were killing a chicken, would you be convinced that I stole it? Judging from the demeanor of the three of you just now, isn't it that I stole it from his house? Lu Haizhong felt embarrassed and suddenly had nothing to say. Ah, this. He really thought so just now. Silly Zhu, don't be fussing around here. The three of us suspect that you stole my chicken, but this is a normal reaction. If you say you didn't steal, then tell me where this chicken came from. If it's not our chicken, then I apologize to you now. Xu Mao immediately spoke coldly beside him. These bangs are really useless. I usually see him putting on a lot of airs, which is a bit intimidating. But when faced with something even more ferocious than him, he instantly wilted. No wonder in the original plot, he, the third master, and Xu Damao couldn't compete with each other. Yes, silly pillar, you say it. Where did you get this chicken from? It's not ours, and whose is it? Lu Xiao immediately asked with a cross-legged expression. Hiyuju's momentum suddenly stagnated. His chicken was originally brought from the cafeteria, how could he say that? At the moment, he said arrogantly, where did I get this chicken? Do I need to tell you? Anyway, this is not your chicken. Whatever you love, get out of here now. When Lu Haizhong saw that he couldn't explain the reason, he immediately regained confidence. Pointing at him, he said, okay, silly pillar, it seems that you really have a problem. Lu Xiao, hurry up and call the first and third masters. In the evening, we will hold a general meeting of the entire hospital. Lu Xiao immediately nodded and said, all right, I'll go right away. As she spoke, she glared fiercely at Youxu, lifted the door curtain, and was about to walk out. At this moment, a figure also walked in from outside. It was Qin Huairu who rushed over upon hearing the noise. As soon as she saw the tense atmosphere in the room, she exclaimed urgently, "What's going on? What's going on? What's wrong with you? I seem to hear you arguing, what happened here?" "Xu Damao's chicken has been lost," Lu Haizhong said with both hands behind his back, feeling angry. "Coincidentally, silly Xu is stewing chicken again. We came over to ask, and as a result, this foolish person actually asked us to get out of here. What's all this called?" Qin Huairu also understood something in an instant, and at the same time, she immediately became a mediator. Dao said, "What do I think it is? So that's all there is to it." Xu Mao corrected beside him and said, "What's such a trivial matter? I lost my chicken. Can this also be considered a small matter?" Qin Huairu immediately sneered, Okay, this is not a small matter. But if your chicken is lost, we can't just say it was stolen by silly Xu. This doesn't make sense either. You're not the only one with chickens in this yard. Lu Haizhong immediately said in displeasure, "Qin Huairu, you're right. But where did he get this chicken from? I can always tell. He can't even say that, and you said he's not a problem." Qin Huairu suddenly froze. "This." Xu Mao chuckled beside him and said, "Second master, we don't need to explain here. Since he doesn't want to explain here, let him make it clear at the plenary session." As he spoke, he glanced at Youxu, ignoring the murderous look in his eyes, and walked straight out. Qin Huairu was suddenly taken aback and lost her voice, saying, "What? The whole court is in a meeting." Lu Haizhong felt a bit scared when he saw him leave. I quickly followed up too. "Yes, then let's keep it for the whole conference." 008, this .in.law is a bit tiger. New book seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Huairu quickly caught up and said, "Hey. Second grandpa, what are you doing? It's just a small matter of losing the chicken. Why do we have to hold a whole house meeting?" Unfortunately, both the Bangs and Xu Mao's footsteps were fast, and they didn't pay any attention to her. Xu Mao certainly knew the reason for her urgency. You should know that his chicken was stolen by her son Jia Bangzhen. If this is a general meeting of the entire court, then this matter cannot be covered up. Xu Mao also wants to know what she will do now. Should she continue to ask Youxu to help her son carry the blame, or should she directly claim compensation? Speaking of which, Xu Mao is also a bit regretful. Unfortunately, I didn't remember it immediately in the afternoon. If I had known earlier that the plot was at the beginning, he would have gone to the factory gate to block Youxu after being injured in the afternoon. In this way, we can directly capture the current situation for him. You should know that stealing chicken is a small matter, but bringing chicken soup home from the cafeteria is stealing public property. This will lead to legal action. No matter how bad it is, it will still be sent to the security office. But now, he has brought back this half of the chicken. As long as he doesn't admit it, no one can do anything about him. After all, as the head chef of the cafeteria, cutting corners on ingredients, as long as they are not discovered on the spot. If you have eaten all the other half of this preparation, then there is no evidence to prove it. No, we can't just forget about it. Xu Mao turned around and glanced at Youxu's room. With everything at this point, how could he give up this opportunity? Immediately, his eyes lit up and he quickly took a few steps. I have found Lu Xiao. There was a murmur in her ear. The whole courtyard was quickly called together and all gathered in the middle courtyard. In the center, 3 gentlemen sat with golden swords. Very stylish. The yard is also full of chatter, and many people still can't figure out what happened. Finally, he coughed lightly in his bangs and stood up. After all, he convened everyone to attend today's general meeting of the entire court. Today, I'm calling everyone over to hold this whole house meeting, mainly to clarify. Did silly Xu steal the chicken from Xu Damao's house? As soon as he said these words, the whole courtyard became agitated. What? Silly Xu stole Xu Damao's chicken? Yeah, when did this happen? It's impossible. No wonder, I just said why the yard is so fragrant. It turns out it's silly pillar stewing chicken. So, the chicken stewed by the silly Xu family is from the Xu Damao family. As soon as their discussion was made, Yi Zhonghai's face sank and his gaze also turned to YouXu on the side. Lu Hai nodded and said, that's right, Xu Damao's chicken was lost this afternoon. And silly pillar happened to be stewing chicken, and we caught him straight away. He said this chicken is not from Xu Damao's family, but let's let him explain how it came about. He won't say it again. So, I'm gathering everyone here tonight to evaluate together. After all, we haven't even lost a needle or thread in our yard for so many years, and losing a chicken is not a small matter. After Lu Haizhong finished speaking, he sat back. He is still very satisfied with everyone's reaction, especially sitting in the middle with such a big horse and a golden knife gives him a sense of achievement. Yan Bugui nodded and said, yes, throwing away the chicken is not a small matter. If we can't figure it out, who dares to leave things outside in this courtyard in the future? I have to guard against thieves every day. Everyone nodded in agreement when they heard them say so. It's a small matter that this chicken was stolen. Anyway, it's not about oneself. But if this thief is not caught, then everyone in the yard will be in a state of panic from now on. Yi Zhonghai saw the heated discussions among the crowd, and his face became even more gloomy. He directly placed the enamel cup in his hand heavily. Alright, everyone, don't argue for now. We're here tonight to deal with the problem, he said in a deep voice, let's first clarify the problem before proceeding. As soon as everyone saw him speak, they all shut up. At this moment, Xu Mao also glanced at him. It has to be said that Yi Zhonghai still has a lot of prestige in this courtyard, and others can still argue about Lu Hai and Yan Bugui. But as soon as he spoke, everything fell silent. No wonder YouXu is so reckless in the yard, with him covering it. What can't be turned into big things or small things? Yi Zhonghai looked at the scene and then turned his head and said, YouXu, to be honest, did you steal Xu Damao's chicken? YouXu was pondering whether to take the blame for Jia Bangeng. This is an instinctive way of speaking upon hearing words. Of course I didn't steal it, I'm not a thief. Why steal Xu Damao's chicken? Xu Mao kept staring at YouXu and Qin Huairu to see if they had any private eye contact. And the tiger girls next to him couldn't control so much. Upon seeing YouXu deny it, he immediately stood up. YouXu, do you still have to deny it? Since you said this is not my chicken, where did you get this chicken from? Lu Haizhong nodded and said, yes, where did you come from? YouXu was already annoyed, and when he saw the two of them pressing each other fiercely, he immediately became angry. Cross-necked, he said, where did my chicken come from? Can you manage it? I bought it, okay. Yan Bugui immediately asked, you said you bought it, but where did you buy it? YouXu sneered, of course it was bought at the vegetable market. Yan Bugui sneered and said, which market is that? Is it Dongdan Market or Chaoyang Market? Don't tell me it's Chaoyang Market. From here to Chaoyang Market, it takes at least an hour to go back and forth. The Dongdan Vegetable Market is even further away. You came back from the steel rolling mill after work and went to buy chicken to stew now, what's wrong? You flew over there. As soon as everyone heard his words, they immediately reacted, and their gaze at YouXu also changed slightly. Lu Xiaoa stood up again and pointed at him, saying, YouXu, don't argue anymore. My chicken was stolen by you. As he spoke, he pulled Xu Mao up and showed him to others, saying, everyone, take a look. Look at the injury on our Damao's forehead. This is what youXu smashed at the steel rolling mill today. Poor Damao at home, he fainted at that time. If it weren't for Secretary Yang being present at the time, helping him uphold justice and asking for some medical expenses, he might have been bullied to some extent. And now, it must be youXu holding a grudge. So, in order to retaliate against our family, he stole my chicken. It's already a bit dark in this meeting, pitch black, and everyone didn't pay attention. Now upon closer inspection, I really saw a bruise on Xu Mao's forehead. At this moment, there was an instant uproar at the scene. Not only did Yi Zhonghai and others change their faces, but also the others on the scene began to blame. I see, that's too harsh, isn't it? I knocked everyone out just because I lost some money and came back to retaliate against them. That's right, it's my own fault, it seems like I've suffered a lot of injustice. When did youXu become like this? 009, I'm here, there's an accident. New book. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The only person on site who couldn't help but smile or cry was Xu Mao. He didn't expect his daughter.in.law to be so tiger like that. On the spot, he revealed the incident of being beaten. Does he want face? How can he stand firm in front of everyone after this? However, it has to be said that the effect of this appearance is really good. youXu's face turned black and he immediately stood up. Fart it, Lu Xiao, who's retaliating against your family. Don't talk nonsense here. I'll say it again, I didn't steal your chicken. Lu Xiao pointed to the drum on Xu Mao's head and said, then I'll ask you, did you hit the injury on my home, Damao? Did you lose money at the steel rolling mill this afternoon? youXu was almost speechless when she scolded him. He suppressed his anger and said, yes, that's right. I smashed Xu Damao's head, and I also lost the money. But what's the connection between this and stealing chickens? Lu Xiao sneered, isn't that all for now? You held a grudge because you lost money. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? My family lost the chicken, so you can eat it here. I used to see that you couldn't bear to eat chicken for half a year. Okay, that's a powerful reason. Although there is no specific evidence. But it's just so convincing. Xu Mao also found that his cheap wife was really a bit tough. In the original work, it is true that she is said to be powerful. The neighbors around also reacted, looking at youXu with a hint of disdain. Yeah, there's no such coincidence in this world. Others throw chickens, you eat chickens. That's the reason, youXu, don't argue anymore. If you stole this chicken, then admit it obediently. That's right, an old man, you still behave like this. Are you human? Fart your mother's stinky bullshit. What do you all know? Shut up, everyone. youXu saw how everyone looked at him, and a wave of anger rushed up. Just as I finished cursing, suddenly something seemed to come to my mind. Suddenly, he became rational and resolute. And you, Lu Xiaoyi, don't deceive others here either. You also said that Xu Damao's injury was caused by me. Then he is my witness. I was at the steel rolling mill all afternoon, but I came back later than him. How could I have time to steal your chickens? I can also bear witness to these things. Everyone was stunned by his words when asked. Yi Zhonghai nodded immediately and said, that's right, I can testify to this. After accompanying the money, it was Xu Damao who left first. If silly Xu comes back to steal the chicken, he won't have time at all. Xu Mao didn't expect them to think of this, which can also be said to be a variable he traveled through. When he saw his own daughter.in.law, she was speechless. Xu Mao also knew it was time to speak on his own. That old man, can you ask silly Xu to explain? Where did he get this chicken from? He doesn't have time to steal chickens, but others can do it. Maybe he still has a partner. Speaking, Xu Mao's gaze had already fallen on Qin Huairu. Others also reacted again. Yeah, why didn't I expect it? He didn't steal it, there could be an accomplice. Well, this can also be explained. Otherwise, his cock is really too coincidental. What is Xu Damao looking at Qin Huairu for? Is he referring to Qin Huairu as his accomplice? How could Qin Huairu possibly say that her son is still around? Yes, it must be his son. People are accustomed to being preconceived, and once they suspect that you have stolen something, they subconsciously treat you as a thief. The current situation of YXu is like this. If you can't explain the origin of this chicken clearly, then you will never be able to wash it away. Can YXu, the chicken, speak clearly? Obviously not. YXu saw that everyone had once again turned their doubts towards him, and his teeth were itching with hatred. If it weren't for the lesson in the afternoon still lingering in his eyes, he would have rushed forward to show Xu Mao a good look. Fart it, Xu Damao, I've already made it clear that you have nothing to do with me. Where did my chicken come from and what does it have to do with you? Don't think that with so many people now, I wouldn't dare to beat you. If you provoke me, I will still kill you. Lu Xiaoyi saw that he was about to rush forward, and immediately blocked in front of him like an old hen guarding a chick. Xu Mao gently pulled her apart and sneered, okay, then come and kill me. Grandpa, since the situation is unclear now, he is unwilling to admit it. Then we can report to the police directly or contact the security office. Anyway, I must catch this chicken thief today. Qin Huai suddenly stood up and shouted, no, we can't call the police, nor can we call the security office. Wait until others look at her with surprised eyes. She just realized it. What I mean is, this is just a small matter in our courtyard. If it goes to the police station or security office, he said with a sarcastic tone again, that would be too embarrassing. How can we evaluate our yard as advanced in the future? Everyone says it's not. Jia Zhang also spoke up and said, that's the reason. Xu Damao, you can't let just one chicken in your family affect the entire yard, can you? Let me see, it's better for our yard to handle it ourselves. Xu Mao couldn't understand the caution of their mother.in.law and daughter.in.law, so he sneered and said, Jia Zhang, don't let your mother.in.law and daughter.in.law come and morally kidnap us. Now there's a thief in our yard. Is there a thief hiding in our courtyard so that you can sleep with peace of mind? Or do you know this thief? Jia Zhang suddenly stood up and nervously said, Xu Damao, you can't say these things recklessly. Who knows this thief? Xu Mao sneered, so why are you nervous? Since we can't find the thief, the old man and his team can't handle it. Is there any problem with me contacting the security office or reporting to the police? Jia Zhang suddenly had nothing to say. In an instant, it shrank back. Even Qin Huairu dared not speak up. Xu Mao sneered inwardly and turned his head, Grandpa, what do you think? If I can't find who stole my chicken again, then I'll have to figure out a solution on my own. Yi Zhonghai's gaze fixed, and in the end, it fell on YXu. Silly Zhu, I'll ask you one more time, did you actually steal this chicken? He naturally knew that this chicken was not stolen by YXu. However, these signs indicate that his half of the chicken must have come from the cafeteria of the steel rolling mill. By then, this investigation will make the problem even bigger. Qin Huairu also looked at YXu with a pleading expression on her face. There's no way, if Xu Mao reports to the police, he will definitely be found on her son's head. She doesn't want her son to become a thief. This way, his whole life will be ruined. 010, sorry, my wife called the police. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, I believe I stole this chicken. That's all for now. YXu gritted his teeth and forcefully suppressed the breath in his heart. What does it mean you recognize it? Silly Zhu, it seems that you are still not convinced by your tone. If you didn't steal, then say you didn't steal. Damn it, it's like we're forcing you. Xu Mao immediately gave a cold smile. Yes, silly pillar, don't make you seem very aggrieved. This is our family's lost chicken. If you didn't steal, why do you admit it? Lu Xiao also let out a cold snort without any hesitation. Okay, it was me who stole it. I just can't stand you asking me to lose money this afternoon, and I want to get even with you. You can tell me what to do. Youxu was so infuriated by the two of them that he couldn't bear it anymore. When Yi Zhonghai saw him start to act impulsively again, he immediately patted the table and shouted angrily, "Silly pillar, what do you want to do? You have a reason to steal things. Don't sit down yet." Youxu felt frustrated when he saw that he was angry. But still holding back his anger, he sat back. Yes, silly pillar, you need to change your temper. You're like this. Lu Haizhong also put on airs and wanted to reprimand, but just as he spoke, he saw a commotion in the front courtyard passage. 3 uniformed police officers walked in. He was momentarily stunned, and when it came to his mouth, he held it back. Oh, why did the police come? Did someone call the police just now? Yeah, how did they come in? Who called the police? Many people in the crowd also saw them, and now there was a commotion. Although Yi Zhonghai and his companions had doubts, they immediately stood up. Police comrades, who are you looking for? Is there anything wrong with this? Lu Haizhong also walked up quickly and said, Yes, I am the second master of this courtyard. What do you have to ask me? The 3 police officers scanned their eyes and said, I just received a report. It said that a family member's chicken has been lost. We are here to investigate this matter. As soon as he said this, the crowd at the scene exploded on the spot. What? They're really here to investigate chicken theft. Who called the police? Yeah, I was a bit skeptical just now, but it really turned out to be for this. TSK. Isn't our yard holding a general meeting? How could someone still call the police? Upon hearing their words, Yi Zhonghai, Youxu, and others immediately turned pale. Even Qin Huairu and Jia Zhang are the same. Immediately stood up anxiously. Yan Bugue immediately stepped forward and smiled, so it was an investigation into chicken theft. Police officer, such a thing has indeed happened in our yard. We are currently holding a general meeting of the entire court and are also handling this matter. Yi Zhonghai nodded and said, Yes, police officer, is there any misunderstanding? Who reported this to the police? We can handle this small matter ourselves in the yard. Lu Haizhong quickly nodded and said, Yes, this kind of thing won't bother you anymore. We'll handle it. And we have already investigated thoroughly. I'm about to solve it. At that moment, a voice rang behind them. Grandpa, I'm sorry, I called the police this time. Everyone turned their heads and saw Xu Maojing smiling at them. Xu Damao, you. Haven't we already held a general meeting of the entire hospital now? Why are you still reporting to the police? Yi Zhonghai's face showed anger as he stared at him intently. That look was clearly really angry. Xu Mao, however, seemed to have missed it and shrugged his shoulders playfully, saying, Grandpa, you can't blame me for this. Stealing chickens is not a small matter. I was also afraid that you wouldn't be able to investigate, so I called the police first. This is just in case. The 3 police officers became a bit impatient and gave a cold shout. Alright, I don't care what kind of general meeting you hold. We received the alarm. Since you have reported to the police, we will come and handle it. Now who's going to talk about who the chicken was stolen from, and what's going on? Xu Mao immediately stood up and pointed at Youxu, saying, Police officer, it's my chicken that was stolen. The police were also reported by my wife. Now this matter is very clear. This chicken is this foolish pillar. No, it was Youxu who stole it. He already admitted it just now. Xu Damao. Youxu gritted his teeth tightly, his eyes almost spewing fire. If he doesn't understand what's going on, then he's just a fool. This guy clearly reported to the police early, just waiting for him to personally admit it. This time, he really has yellow mud falling off his pants. It's not shit, it's all shit. Yes, comrade police officer, this was what he admitted in front of the whole court just now. Just arrest him. Liu Xiao immediately agreed. The police officer, led by this, glanced at the crowd and noticed their expressions, and his heart was clear. Immediately walked towards Youxu. Your name is Youxu, right? What they said earlier was true. You really stole this chicken. Youxu was instantly entangled. He is really admitting it, not admitting it is not. If admitted, he will definitely be taken away. If you don't admit it, then Xu Damao will definitely not give up easily. In this way, the theft of chickens will continue. Zhonghai stepped forward and immediately shook the hand of the police officer, saying, Police officer, I am Zhonghai, an old man in this courtyard. Look, can you be accommodating? We just need to handle this small matter in our yard. The leader of the police suddenly snorted coldly and said, Comrade Zhonghai, looking at you like this, you should also be an old comrade. How could you say such a thing? If no one reports this case and your courtyard can handle it internally, then we will handle it. Since someone has reported this matter to the police, of course we must handle it fairly. Do you want us to know and break the law? Zhonghai quickly explained, No, that's not what I meant. I just feel that if it's just because of a chicken, there's no need to trouble you. The leading police officer suddenly snorted coldly and said, What's called just because of a chicken? This is theft a small matter? Zhonghai didn't expect him to be so unfriendly, so he was stunned at the moment. As for Lu Haizhong Yen Bugue, I originally wanted to come forward and say a few words, but seeing the police officer so strict, I immediately felt a sense of withdrawal. Each one shrank back and stopped speaking. At this moment, Xu Mao almost applauded and cheered when he saw the police's upright appearance. He had already thought about whether this police officer would sell Zhonghai, this old man, to save face. After all, he is still very famous in this alley. I didn't expect that the police officer wouldn't even bother him. New books are not easy, please order some flower tickets. Jingyu is immensely grateful.